Jessica Graves. It's July 15th, 2021. We're here at the Pyle Center in Tempe, Arizona. I'm with Doreen Garlid.
Garlid.
Dang it.
That's okay. That's all right.
What is it?
Garlid. Garlid.
I thought I said that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Garlid. My bad. So remind me when it was that you moved to Arizona or to Tempe. You said in 19.
Yeah, we came around 78.
78,
Yeah,
and you were moving from California?
So we were in California, and then we moved to Kentucky. My dad retired from the Navy in Kentucky. He was there for recruiting, and then we came back here to Arizona because my dad wanted to be near his parents who lived in Casa Grande, and my mom wanted to be near her parents who lived on the Navajo reservation outside of Flagstaff.
So how old were you when you moved to Arizona?
Good question. I was in 6th grade, so we moved back here. Yes.
And did you move to Tempe?
We moved to Gilbert first, and then into Tempe. Yeah. So I love Tempe.
So where all in Arizona have you lived then?
Good question. Let's see. It's super simple. So I lived in Casa Grande when we first got here from Kentucky. We lived with my grandparents for a few months till my dad found a job. Then we moved to Mesa, where I grew up, went to Gilbert High School, and then we moved over here to Tempe.
So I moved to Arizona when I was in the 7th grade.
Oh, okay.
So being that young in 6th grade, what were your first thoughts when you knew you were going to be moving to Arizona? Did you have any previous opinions about Arizona?
So no, I was actually really happy to come to Arizona, and the reason why is, so my mom is full-blooded Navajo and I'm half, and I don't look Irish. So when we lived in California, I was always our family was one of the very few Native Americans that were in the school. So we stuck out, we looked different. When we moved to Kentucky, we were the only Native American family in the school. And it's a horrible story. I remember at recess one day, and kids were telling me to go back to my reservation. I was like, I've never lived on a reservation. I've lived on a naval base, but I've never lived on a reservation. So when my dad said he wanted to come back to Arizona, I was so thankful because I knew Native Americans lived in Arizona, so I felt like I would fit in better here. So I was actually really excited about coming here.
So I grew up in a mixed race family as well. My father is German and English, and my mother is Mexican and Native American as well. And I did not grow up with a Native American culture. I grew up in a very mixed culture. What culture would you feel like was in your home growing up? Which do you most identify with?
So you have to understand the structure. So my granduncle, in Navajo we call him grandfather, George Kirk, who was a code talker, he and my grandmother, my mom's mother, were, what they told us, kidnapped off the Navajo reservation and forced to go to Phoenix Indian School. And every time they spoke Navajo, they were punished. They were whipped. So the crazy thing is 5 years later, my granduncle was in the war as a code talker, saving the United States with that same language. So when my mom went off the reservation and went to NAU to go to school where she met my dad, she did everything she could possibly do to not stick out as a Native American. And so when she raised us to know that we were Navajo, but not really to have any affiliation with the Navajo Nation. And we didn't, not until we were older, my mother was more comfortable with us and with where we lived and with what she was able to teach us, that she started teaching us more things when we were probably in middle school. So culturally growing up, it's interesting. I grew up learning the Navajo way and having a Navajo praying bag called a katadin bag, but I was also raised in the Catholic Church. So I was raised with two cultures. And my parents always said that when you get old enough, you can make your own decision and pick which one you want. Well, that is just impossible when you're a child and you learn about the katadin bag and praying to the Navajo spirits, and you raised in the Catholic Church. So the cultural background has been a little bit mixed for me, but I think now for my kids, I started instantly telling them when they were younger, you know, what their background and their history was, especially when the kids were getting older and they're getting their Arizona history books and they're saying their great-grandfather or great-granduncle in the history book pages. So that, and then trying to also teach them about being Norwegian, which is what my husband is. We call our kids Navajoians because that's what they're mostly Navajoians, and Navajo and Norwegian. But yeah, growing up with the cultural background, it's hard to figure out what to grasp onto. For me, it's a little easier because I look more Navajo than I do Irish. But I have tried to learn the Irish background from my dad.
And you said that when you were going to be moving to Arizona, you were excited because there was a bigger population of Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Did it meet your expectations when you then actually moved to Arizona and were going to school?
It did, not so much when I going to school at Gilbert when I first got there, but then I met other families that were Native American that were there, and that my mother was taking us to the reservation quite regularly. So I did feel more of that connection there.
Were there direct relationships with the Navajo community, with your family?
Yeah, because we have a lot of family who still live on the reservation. So we were going there for Yebache ceremonies and other different Navajo ceremonies. My mom was taking us there, making sure that we went there to see what they were, to take part in them, to understand how important they were to her culture.
Were there other type of any kind of Native American communities that you were in relationship with when you were outside of Arizona? Like, did you go to any other?
No, but I did go with my mom. I started when I was about 5. My mom would dress me in my traditional outfit, and she would wear her traditional outfit, and we would go to different schools around in California. And it was usually during Thanksgiving, where they would want to know more about Native American cultures, and we would go there and explain to them a little bit about the culture, but I didn't do much more than that when I was younger.
Do you remember how you felt when you first started going to Navajo ceremonies?
I loved it. I wasn't really excited about the butchering of the sheep at the beginning and having to have to watch that, and I really wanted to eat hot dogs with my dad. But I loved it. I loved the people. I loved the smell of the reservation. I loved wearing my traditional outfit. I still do. I get really excited when an organization or somebody says, hey, can you come and do your Navajo talk? I'm like, oh, yes. I get to wear my traditional outfit and my moccasins and all my jewelry, and I get so excited about it. So I'm really proud to be able to wear that.
And you also said that you've lived in a couple of places around Arizona. Have you seen a difference as a Native American in those different areas, and then have you just seen a difference just in general that you want to?
I think it's really different when you see Native Americans when they live on the reservation compared to when they live off. So I tell people that I'm an urban Native. I've never lived on the reservation. I don't know what that's like. I know the stories from my mom. I spent summers with my grandparents where they had to load 2 big tanks in the back of their truck and go get water and bring it back, and you went to bed when the sun went down because they didn't have electricity. So I mean, I see some differences, but I think when I was younger, I didn't pay too much attention to that. I wish I would have paid more attention.
Well, then that can be the next question. Is there anything you know now that you wish you would have started learning earlier?
Language. I can tell you 10 words in Navajo, and that's probably it. And that's the sad part about doing my Navajo talks is my mom used to go with me, and she would do all the speaking. She would do the introduction in Navajo and then turn it over to me, and I'd do all the other stuff, and then she'd close it in Navajo. So I think everything I look back at now, I wish I would have learned more of the language. I just think that that's really sad. It's that every Native community in the United States is going through the loss of language and the loss of the crafts. There's not as many Navajo weavers because you don't make a lot of money on it. So why are they doing it? There's not a lot of basket weavers and other traditional things. So I think that part's really sad. You ask great questions.
Thank you.
You did really well too, but I mean,
Take that.
yeah.
So-
But,
So,
but you know, what's really interesting is the more you were doing it, the more comfortable that you felt and the more comfortable I felt. And then, I mean, honestly, telling you the story of how the kids in Kentucky weren't very nice to me, I can't remember the last time I told that to somebody because it really does still break my heart. So the fact that you asked that in that way made me comfortable enough to tell you something that still hurts me. So that was very good. She did well.
so this is Duane Roen, and I have a question that I would like to ask based on our mutual connection to another institution in the city of Tempe, and that's the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. And you mentioned in a conversation that we had about how that relates to some of your family history.
Yeah, so I was really excited when I went through my interview with the college because I have medicine men that are still medicine men in our family. And when my mom had passed away, I had found all these other herbs and things that she had in the house, natural medicines that they used to heal themselves, and that I didn't know my mom had this huge stash. And so what's really exciting to me is that this summer, it's actually at the end of August, my cousin in Navajo, he's my brother, but in other culture, he's my cousin, is a medicine man, and he's going to come and he's going to go through all of those medicines with us and tell us, because my mom wrote on a lot of them. Some of them say lightning strike herbs. It's so in Navajo, if a tree or something gets struck by lightning, we are not supposed to touch it. It's will cause bad things to happen to us. But medicine men can touch it when they bless it. So there's a jar and it says lightning strike herbs on it, and it has other things in there. And then on the bottom it says it takes a teaspoon of this, puts them in the water, and then drink it, and it'll help you with your cold. So I found bottles like that with jars with different medicines in it, and so most of them have a list of what they're used for, but it doesn't say what's in it. I mean, it looks like maybe cedar something, and it looks like, I don't know, other branches and things like that. So I'm really looking forward to meeting with my cousin Emery to go through those things and find out what actually is in them and what makes the healing properties in those, and to share that with the college. I'm excited about that.
Thank you.
I mean, the most interesting one for me is we had a peyote ceremony for my mom about 3 months before she passed away, hoping that the peyote medicine and the spirits were going to be helpful to help her, to cure her, but her cancer was too far gone. But when she was going through cancer, they gave her this medicine, a jar of stuff that we were supposed to make for her, and made it into like a tea. And when she would get nauseous and stuff coming back from chemotherapy, that was the only thing. It wasn't the Zofran that the doctors gave us. It was that liquid that my mom would drink that made her not be nauseous and relaxed her. So that's the one I'm most interested in knowing what it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to stop now.
You guys are so patient.